Hello, good morning. I hope that everyone had a good weekend. Brian Jennings here, the Critical Sorcerer. This channel exists as your daily dose of reality. No red pill, blue pill, white pill. Right? Absolute truth. David Mamet discusses this in his masterclass, which also ends with him telling you that telepathy is the key to getting into show business, and that breaks me up every time I think about Quentin, for sure. But he says that there's a difference between, he talks about a rabbi, I talked about this with him. He says there's a difference between a lie and an untruth. That you don't have to tell people the things that you don't want them to know, and that's not, right? That's not a lie. Right? If you get drunk and sexually assault someone and you say, oh no, I didn't do that, that's a lie. Like perhaps you could, right? You could say, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. And that's not an untruth, but, right? You get drunk and pour beer all over someone, scream right in their face, in your kids' faces. That's assault. And when you tell the FBI, oh no, I didn't do that. It's like the Dave Chappelle bit. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Right? That's a lie. Because we all know better. Right? But if, say, your spouse is going to get a medical exam that you're very nervous about, and you call out to work to be with them. And then you go to work the following day and they say, oh, what happened? And you say, oh, I took a mental health day. That's not completely the truth, is it? But it's not rooted in malice and deception. That's the point. That the mind is a subtle, nuanced thing. Right? And so, like, the last thing that I'll mention about David Mamet's masterclass is when I talk about telepathy, he said that when you come to your audition, right, that they're telling you in your mind, like, oh, there's the door, just go through the door. And that's what Quentin was doing in his way. Right? Wasn't enough for me. And that's my right. That's the real point that he's still struggling with right now. That I wrote him a bunch of letters, right? Never deceptive. Always honest. Not a bunch, but throughout the entire saga, seeking honest, earnest communication with him. And he was interested in subtle, deceptive untruths, half-truths. And so, when he turned his back on my letter, at a screening of Jackie Brown last year in June, I decided to take it at face value. That's my right. That's like... And I hated myself for months, abandoned all of my worldly possessions, quit my job that was paying me a real salary. It wasn't a good job, but... Anyway, I did all of it to say, oh, I'm sorry, I do respect it. And so, again, right, like this is... like his design was always to possess my mind. That's the point. Right, that's the real point. And so he's content, right? Everyone around him knows that he just has this sick layer of bile over him completely because they know the type of shit that he's into. Right? And so when I didn't give it to him willingly, he took it by force with a power that no court can try him on. Right? I can go the fuck off, right? Like I can do that. I can do all the things that he does. Right? Easy. I can devote my life to his suffering. Right? But everything is in reverse with the two of us. Right? He stole my mind by force and gave me his willingly. Right? And in his mind, it's reversed, right? He wanted me to give him my mind willingly. Right? And then in exchange for that, he would force fame upon me and allow me. Right? And undoubtedly, I stole his heart. On some level, I must have. as far as, right, the poet David White says, anger is the purest form of care. Right? That this is my point when I say he's not actually cool. He's a sick, evil man. Right? Because if he was cool, he would have just, right? Because these are his standards, right? Like, I can forgive all of the, right? I can forgive the expectation of telepathy, right? On a fundamental level. It's his movie, right? But for him to double down and say, "Oh no, I'll use my clairvoyance to not only make him appear insane, but to hopefully compel him to suicide," is the pinnacle of black magic evil, right? When I proved him impotent as a psychic, rather than like look in his heart, like look at his goddess of a wife, she's so fine, perfection, right? He looked to what he didn't have. And that's, right? That's unwise in and of itself. But to look to that and say, oh no, I have this canker in my mind that I have to purge through spiritual fire, is literally the definition of evil. It is not, right? Because I've always been honest with him. I've always been, right? Like, I wasn't honest with myself in that moment. I was honest with him in terms of his actions. Right? He played a subtle bullshit indirect game and he got a subtle bullshit indirect reply. But I was lying to myself. Like that's like I knew what he wanted. I knew I had the questions, I was prepared. It's supposed to be beautiful, like sure. Right? But rather than pay me to go away, rather than be honest with me, right? He entered into a sick covenant that they're trash spiritually. There's nothing good about any of them. They're all going to lie to everyone around them forever, for the rest of their lives, unless we reconcile. And we never will. That he's a psychic goblin. That's what he actually is. So, he wanted my mind, now he's got it. And all he can do is murder me. That's it. All he can do is be evil, knowing that I'm gonna just dump savage rage upon his spirit and soul if he fucks with me in a meaningful way. Or he can make the call, right? And so that's the fear. That's why I'm talking about it, right? There's nothing stopping either of us from just devoting all of our energy towards destroying the other one. And he's been doing that essentially for a year. As much or as little as he wanted. And so if you recall, I create the statistic that I refer to as the square law. And again, this is spiritual occult science. It's the science of the soul. It's not the science of the measuring stick. Right? And so I allege that every time you remote view someone, if you're having a telepathic communion, then each time you do it is an exponential factor in which you have increased the connection thereby. And so, right, the first time that he did it with me last December, first time, our connection became 4 times stronger than the baseline. And then when he did it again, it became 9 times stronger than the 4 times, right? Which is 36 times stronger than the first time. On and 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 on. This goes, right? The third time it was 16 times, 36 times stronger. Right? So, the danger is that now he and the people around him, perhaps it's all him, It's not all him, but perhaps it is. As far as, right, they're interested in shadowy, right, bullshit. But, right, however it has transpired, they have spent upwards of 500 hours now remote viewing me. Right? And so 500 squared is 250,000, right? That's 250,000. But what's 499 squared, right? Because really it's 250,000 times 499 squared. That's the actual number. In terms of, right? Right there. Boom. Case study in remote viewing. So this is why I'm talking about it, because in his mind, right, he justifies my murder as the taking back of his mind, right? As the correction of his error, because he could have just let me go. Right? That he's so, right? This is my point, right? That now we're descending into real evil, that there's nothing left but real evil. And it's very frightening, it's very scary. And so I can't live my life assuming that everyone that I see is someone sent by Quentin to murder me, like that caters to his design. But the reality is that he did cancel the film because of me, and he did want me to play the role. But he didn't want to speak to me practically and normally, which is what I needed. Right? That's what I need. That's not what he needed. Right? He needs nothing. He wanted me to bend before his psychic intent. Right? And so everything that he shows them, right, if he has a document, right? So there's so many people that have been aware of me this entire time. That's the point. Right? The entire time. Right? Sony Pictures, Tom Rothman, Stacey Sher, Shannon McIntosh, Robert De Niro, Brad Pitt. Right? And so again, right, anger is the purest form of care. Right? In his mind, he said, if he can do this, right, if he can ask me some good questions and shine his light, he'll be good. He'll be good. I know he's great. So I suspect that maybe Brad did tell Brad, like, you're out. You're out. This guy's cool. He's going to go off forever. I went too far. I'm going to do right by him. Right? And so, in that way, he was inviting me in on his terms. Right? And it's his movie. I make no qualms about that. That my reply, my behavior, right, per clairvoyant occultist standards, is denied access. The only problem is that, like, I do know what time it is, right? Like, this is, right? This is why he didn't want to just pay me, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. It is. It's a testament to a great depravity within him, within his psyche, that he's so, like, focused on needing to control, right? Me, in specific. I guess I'm the only one that they didn't give him what he wanted. That's what I suspect, as far as actors. That he could dismiss executives, right? Other types in the industry. Perhaps everyone in town thinks he's a fucking creep. I don't know. But at any rate, right, when he played his games with me and he didn't win, right, he doubled down and has been seeking the destruction of my mind to compel me to suicide. There's no other way to interpret it. All of this time that him and the people around him have spent remote viewing me, or it's just all him, but it's not all him, has engendered a pathological condition in both of our minds. It's a dangerous psychology, where we both exist as goblins in the other's mind. That's what's actually occurring. You believe it, you don't believe it, right? The other side of the argument is that I've lost my mind. Like, that's, like, sure, right? But the point is that I can subpoena Robert De Niro, right? I can subpoena Quentin Tarantino and put them on the stand and say, what do you have to say about it? Man, it never had to be this. It never had to be this. Right? I don't have any money, and money solves nothing, right? This is a spiritual, right? There is no monetary solution to a spiritual problem, right? It's an ethical decision on his part, right? To simply tell the truth about the movie. That's where we're at. No, he spent so much time being awful to me that I can't stop talking about this until it's actually resolved in a tangible, palpable way. No more secrets. Right? And so what I'm saying is that, he can continue to lie his entire life. I understand that. He'll just keep saying I'm crazy. That's what I have to assume. Right? But I also have no reason not to assume that he's not outright evil and won't send someone to murder me and make it look like a suicide, etc., etc., etc. All those crazy tinfoil, Alex Jones sort of things, right? When all I ever did was write letters from the heart. I never expected anything that he wasn't prepared to put in. And if he had said something to me, it would have been the most beautiful moment of his career and would have detracted nothing That's the real point. That he degenerated it into an aloof, fucked up, seductive mind game. And that's not how my mind operates. Right? That's not, that doesn't interest me at all. Right? Subtle, coy, right? You don't take my letter, right? Like, I'm not interested in being where I'm not wanted. That's the point. Right? And this is why the Earth's flat. But my point is that, like, if I can't trust my eyes, right? That's what the flat earthers say. That's my point. That's the joke. If I can't trust my eyes, if I can't trust what I am experiencing, and it's true that I was experiencing a palpable psychic connection for all the months leading into Tribeca. That is true. On a real logical level. The weeks leading into Tribeca, I was so sick of it. I said, no, it's just like, I'm over it. Like, I want my mind back. And undoubtedly that played a part in my decision making. That he did it backwards. Right? He did everything backwards with me because I'm not like anyone else he's ever known. Right? That he should have put all of the dangerous, evil, ugly, right? Oh, I'm a powerful Hollywood mogul, and if you don't give me what I want, I'll destroy you. But if you play nice in the sand, I'll be cool. Right? Like, that would have done it. That would have put the fear in me. But poisoned my mind with a bunch of bullshit notions, right? About David Berlinski wanting to interview me, about my family, talking about, right? And he was calculating that I was like talking about this with people. But I was talking about it with my coworkers, and that's it. I never told any of my family because of what had happened months prior. Right? When he stopped accepting where I'm at, I got really depressed. Right? I didn't want to upset them. I didn't want to... Right? He miscalculated every step of the way. To where he made it aloof and indifferent and coy. And so... Right? I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. You turn your back on me, I turn my back on you. You don't take my writing. Right? I don't see between the lines. There's the lines. You look between those lines. My point is that I was playing the same game, right? And I know that he thought that in his mind. He said, this motherfucker's playing the same game. I hated myself for months. Don't hate myself anymore. Because it's just evil now, right? He has exposed his true nature now. We never know who we are until we're faced with an existential crisis. Right? And so his existential crisis was that there's an actor who didn't give him what he wanted, who didn't bend to his psychic will, to his psychic intention. And so my existential crisis was that, right, a person that I really admired, I wasn't able to see what they needed and give it to them. Right? That I am interested in love, I'm interested in caring and in helping people, right, on a fundamental level. And so he needed me to read between the lines. Right? I wanted to play the role. I wanted to be his last movie star. And there's nothing wrong with that. I find no fault in that. It's his movie. He can do whatever he wants. Do I think it's ridiculous? Yeah. 100%. 100%. Right? No more games. He wanted something from me. He wanted acquiescence. Right? And I was cool. I let him manipulate me all those months. Right? And then still I felt bad, right? Because of my compassion, because of my loving heart. Sacrificed everything. Everything. Suffered. Like no one else is capable of. Right? This is the most interesting story in the history of show business. Right? And so he thought that it was a more appropriate use of his energy, right? Like what he could have done is pay me $500,000, $1 million, and make his fucking movie. Like that's the point, right? Like that's what a cool person would do. So I'm gonna pick up where I left off, reading my story that I'm writing about the last day of shooting. With dinner concluding, a great lethargy has come over Leo. This is resulting from the 1 milligram of Xanax Daniela crushed up into his wine. He knew immediately, being a party monster of long standing, but convinced himself the chalky aftertaste was just bad wine. Daniela looks wide-eyed at Leo. Let's party! I don't know, guys. I'm feeling a little tired. Maybe I'll go. He stands, stumbling up from his chair. A nice acting flair from Quentin ensues. No, come on, man. You stay here. We got plenty of rooms. Here, I'll show you. I don't know, Quentin. I don't have to drive. I can get a car. Quentin puts his arm over Leo's shoulder and turns him round towards the hall. I insist. Leo, still oblivious if by his own design, nods. All right, Quentin. Thanks. You're the child of the movies, he replies, leading him through the bedroom door on the left side of the hall. He motions Leo in, who turns to face Quentin across the threshold. Quentin smiles. You good? Leo nods in his chemical haze and closes the door on Quentin departing back the way he came. Emerging back in the kitchen, Quentin finds Daniela helping the housekeeper, Esme. Short for Esmeralda, from Mexico City. Strong, heavy feet, good looking. Quentin had her only once. She barely fought. That was 20 years ago. Now all he sees is a beat up workhorse, which he is all too aware of. But his perversions have always made her uncomfortable, often citing to her priest in confession her sensing the devil within him. She has never seen the sex dungeon. They clean it themselves, and it is kept under lock and key behind a hidden door in the library. Daniela sees her illustrious new husband and looks to Esme. Are you okay? See? Are you sure? I can help. I don't mind. No, you go. I finish. It's fine. Despite their proclivities, she's a sweet, loving woman, lost in the glow of their honeymoon phase. They met some 3 years prior, for the first time while Quentin was promoting the Hateful Eight in Tel Aviv. And of course, Quentin wanted her biblically immediately, as she is one of the most beautiful women in the world. However, it took some coaxing from mutual friends to convince him to call. And though she was ignorant sexually, her heart and mind were open, and they now are true soulmates, indulging in blasphemous depravities only the most sophisticated hip psychological palates could conceive of or enjoy. She is her father's daughter, a beautiful witch. On the opposite side of the mansion is the library. The only visible clue to their true nature, having all four walls packed floor to ceiling with a cornucopia of occult books on esotericism spanning the millennia. All first edition. A large portion of his fortune is books, along with archival prints of films from all over the world. The room has 15-foot-high ceilings and 2 ladders on roller rails. The top shelves are all locked behind glass. Quentin rolls the ladder in front of a specific shelf. He climbs up and produces a key, unlocking the glass case and sliding it into place flush with the top of the shelf just below it. He pulls a specific book, Darwin's On the Origin of Species, to a 45-degree angle, releasing a dense system of mechanical locks, which release the 2 shelf door hinges, and Quentin opens the false bookshelf, revealing a high, narrow spiral staircase descending to parts unknown. Daniela applies from the ground, offering a yay of glee as Quentin pushes a button just inside of the hidden wall, which causes a platform to protrude out, allowing more or less safe access to the ladder, off the ladder, and into the stairwell. Daniela floats up the ladder and walks just behind her Hierophant. She waves her hand across the sensor inside the hidden passage, and the wall closes once more behind them, leaving only the open glass case and ladder as a clue to their whereabouts. But of course, Esme is oblivious and knows nothing about the chamber. The stone corridor illuminates with a soft white light once the door seals them in. A digital torch array that gives medieval futurism vibes. Once they can see, they depart walking down the turret. The corridor and sex dungeon are architectural marvels. A psychedelic priest hole, which was the first piece built in total secrecy 16 years prior, just after finishing Kill Bill. Quentin recalls the building of it as he descends to encompass the scope of his intent with his beautiful wife. He is as excited as she is. So, that's everything that I've written so far. Again, It's the last day. They finished wrapping the principal photography as far as the actors in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? This is like as far as the first scenes, it's all legit as far as the scenes they shot. I don't know if they shoot chronologically, but they probably could. As far as the physical exertion being towards the end of the film. But just a story, but it touches on a truth within him. And so now, perhaps, it's the prologue. It's the new prologue to my novel. Originally, it was 3 essays. Perhaps this is the new prologue. I suppose I'll go. I don't really know what else to say. I have no choice but to talk about it every day. It's exhausting, of course, to live in this condition. And he's exhausted too. Right? Everyone around him is sick of it. Because no matter what he tells the Hollywood Reporter, right? No matter what he tells all of the press that I reached out to, everything that I'm saying is true. And there's plenty of people who have been aware of me the entire time. In fact, Tom Rothman was actually quoted right around Tribeca. He said, I know something, but I can't talk about it. What do you think that was? Right? He's talking about me. That's the point. Because it was after Tribeca. Right? It was supposed to be me, like, interviewing him, right? Him playing me like a puppet, like he's directing David Fincher, shoving his hand up his ass now. Right? Or everyone's under gag order and he was just there directing. But I don't think that's true. I think that he was in his sex dungeon, watching a monitor array, making the call, saying, do this. Right? He was on FaceTime with everyone. Right? That he just betrayed everything that he appreciated in movies. Because, right, this thing that he thought that he had control over every actor in the world with, turns out, in fact, he doesn't. And he set up what was supposed to be like a home run for me, right? Like, it was like slow pitch in its way. Right? And again, I'm tired of hating myself. I'm tired, no, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to feel sorry about myself. No more secrets, right? No more. So I'm going to talk about it openly in the light of day. And I'm just going to help him. I'm going to help him live the life that he wants to live, where he tells everyone that I'm insane and that I have no idea what I'm talking about. Right? And so eventually, like God willing, right, someone will go to Robert De Niro. Right? Any journalist at all. Right? And so the other side of that is that he has a document that he shows people and says, this is where I told him. And that's a lie. That's an outright vulgar lie. Put him on a polygraph. Right? So these are his two options. Like, he can say that I'm insane. He can say that I'm a weird, crazed fan. Right? Because it justifies me not bending to his clairvoyant expectations. Or he can lie. Right? Either way, it's a lie. Right? He got out what he put in. Right? I don't care about being a movie star. I cared about writing someone that I admired. Right? Yes, I am objectively the best actor to play that role. That's still true now. Right? But never did I set out with like stars in my eyes. Right? It was a logical argument, writer to writer. And so when I watched that interview with Guillermo and Oscar Isaac for GQ, I think about like that's how it should have gone. And again, that's a different scenario, but not really, right? He was looking for an actor, right? Like, and so in Quentin's mind, it's like, oh, he has no clout, but that doesn't mean you're better than me. That's the point, right? That doesn't mean that you get to fucking play your sick mind games with me and not understand that you're setting yourself up for disappointment on some level. Right? Yes, I am the most powerful clairvoyant of the millennial generation. Right? Doesn't mean that I have to be that to be a good artist. I live closer to God probably than anyone. Like, yes, that is true. Devoted to love, compassion. And so that's why I sacrificed everything, because I felt bad, because I did know what he needed. Not what he needed, what he wanted. I knew what he wanted, and I wanted to give him what he wanted. But I didn't. So Right? The things that people refer to as clairvoyant, telepathic, remote viewing, right? These are the same things that people refer to as magic and sorcery. Right? It's the engendering of an electrical membrane of a thought force, right, and pushing it out as a radio signal, or seeking the quantum entanglement through superposition of the atomic, subatomic structure of the actual physical condition of the membrane with the disparate locale that you seek to observe, manipulate, vivify, or destroy in your mind's eye. And so Quentin, right, cultivated this notion within me by his bullshit. Right? Knowing that I wrote him twice as soon as he canceled the film and a week before Tribeca. Right? Seeing me writing every day, all day, as much as I could. He stuck his nose up at my letter. He turned his back on my letter. Right? Because he's a famous guy. And so, right, I don't have to give you what you want. Right? I don't have to do that. Right? I can. But if you don't want to, right? My point is that if he had said something to me, I would have been more nervous. Like, again, he saw everything backwards. He thought that my ambition exceeded the scope of my understanding. But honesty means so much more to me. That if he had said, right, in writing, I'll fucking hate you forever and destroy your career and your reputation and your life if you don't play nice at Tribeca and ask me some great questions about cinema speculation, I would have been terrified. So instead, I'm terrified now because he spent a substantial portion of his life towards seeing me suffer and seeing me go crazy and commit suicide. And now that he knows that will never happen, we're stepping into the territory of actual measurable evil. Right? Single phone call. Right? There's probably any number of people that call him master, that see me as a fly on the wall, and they got their swatter, they're ready to. And I hope that's not true, because all I've ever done is live. I never asked him to remote view me. Never asked him to, right? I asked him to forgive me. Told him he could have my scene for free. Told him I'd do the movie for free. But that's not good enough. Right? I humiliated him, and so now I deserve to die. That's, right? To be, or I just, he's in his mind, it's like, oh, I'll humiliate him so much that he'll get it and he'll blow his brains out. I'll turn all his heroes against him. And so what he never expected is that I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about me. And if they side with you, they're not actually cool because you're fucking evil. So I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you lie to the whole fucking world. And that's why this channel exists. See what's good in your life. Do something nice for someone else. Hold those dear to you close. Tell someone you love them. Do something nice for someone else. Write a poem. Sing a song. Draw a picture. Write a story. Let me know what you think. God bless.